Alright, so I am shooting the intro after I'm done here. I can't probably stress enough how much of a pain this is, how much I forgot that this was a pain. 2015, I think. So it's been a little while, but anyway, yes, it's a hard job. It's frustrating. You're going to be climbing on top of the car. You may have to get underneath if it helps you better. You're going to be tearing apart some stuff. Don't take it lightly, but at the same time, I'm not trying to scare you away. Have a friend, 2 people, 3 people. One's got a hold while one tries to tighten. You're going to be dealing with tight spaces, old bolts that aren't going to be as easy as just threading on. Unless, of course, if you go ahead and buy all new, studs and nuts, which you can. But even then, you're still going to be in for a ride. I'd say set a whole day aside. Maybe plan on not having the car for a second day in case you want to throw the towel in, walk away, take a break. So to start, I'll show you the gaskets real quick. Basically, you're going to take stock gaskets, whether you're 3.4 or 3.5, whatever you're working with, and you're just going to cut each individual ports. And here's what your gaskets will look like before you install. It'll be all one piece with a bunch of jagged edges. Just cut out each one. Don't cut into the actual metal piece itself, and you'll be good to go. That's really all you need besides the headers themselves. Hopefully having S&S, it comes with a donut gasket. If not, you're going to be on a hunt. If you have a used one, that'll help. Otherwise, you're going to be like me back in when I did my first set and running to the part store with a whole set of headers and spending a few hours trying to find the right one. Fortunately, being so long ago, I don't have the info to share. I kick myself for not saving that kind of stuff. I honestly, with messing with this set here, I don't recommend changing over to Vband. I feel like this was much harder than when I did the donut gasket with less knowledge. I'll show you everything you need to get out of the way. Don't mind the engine bay is pretty bare because we are in the middle of the whole motor thing. So I'll speak on the stuff that actually needs taken out. So first and foremost, before you do anything, obviously we're going to remove your stock manifolds, front, rear, the centerpiece, and then unbolt your downpipe. If you have heat shields, you have to get those off first. The crossover comes off first, and then each side will fall off after that. You're going to need to drain your coolant system. So on your radiator, put a little bucket underneath, drain it out, take this hose off, and you're going to need to take the black wraparound piece off. Get that all out of the way. Dipstick does need to come out. You have a 13 right here. Unbolt that. If you're able to wiggle it, and maybe grab with some pliers down below and pop it out and get out of the way completely, best case scenario. If not, you're going to be kind of bending it and flexing it around and factoring in that while you're trying to maneuver getting this front header in. Unplug the wiring and remove just the fan shroud. It's just kind of, the bottom just sits in and the top kind of just clips into place. So pop that out and you'll be able to wiggle that out of the way. Once you're done to kind of go underneath and take a look to make sure your wiring's still going to be out of the way. In theory it should be, but it's good just as a precaution because these are always going to get hot. Obviously take your intake, whatever it be, whether it's stock, whether it's a cold air, get that out of there. But you don't need to take off your upper manifold. You can go ahead and just leave that on. That's not going to interfere with anything, as well as the throttle body. You can leave that bolted on there. When you take that crossover tube off, you are going to have 2 hoses on there, so remember those. The coil pack's going to come off. Probably best to go ahead and take off the EGR at the manifold. Get it out of the car as that. If you're reusing it, it'll be a little better to work on outside of the car if you can salvage it. My suggestion is take your solenoid off the tube and just buy a new tube. The headers will have a provision for it, which you see here I blocked off. And then I also suggest doing a new O2 sensor. So yeah, just get a new sensor, save yourself some trouble. Any wiring, any hoses that seem to be in the way, also get rid of. You'll see as I kind of work what may or may not be in the way, but as you're working, if something's in the way, just move it. You are going to need to remove the alternator and the bracket Okay, so you're gonna have to just undo your belt and just kind of set it aside. But definitely those two things, because you're gonna need all the room you can get right here. One, to drop the headers down in, and then when you're working on the bottom set of bolts, you're gonna be reaching in right about here and back across. But that should be pretty much everything you need to remove. Another tight place you're gonna be working is right about here. And whether that be a V-band or a donut. Donut gasket's gonna have 2 bolts. So orient them so that you can get to them easier. And obviously same thing with V-band. Make sure you're face the spot you can get to. Take all that into consideration and watch what footage I get. I'll do my best, like I said, with how much you have to move around, and literally you'll see I'll be on top of the motor too. That's hard to kind of get a good angle, especially by yourself. So right off the bat, I'm going to suggest making sure this top right one is a stud, because you're not going to get a bolt at that angle. So now we have the front loosely on. Okay. We got to get the back also loosely on. And you're going to tighten this connection before anything. Once you get this connection right here between the two secured, whether it be a V-band or the donut gasket, then you're going to come back and tighten the front and back. Same thing in the back, just kind of start them, get loosely on. Same thing in the back, just kind of start them, get them loosely on, and go from there. So the problem with the back is it's going to want to hang down since you don't have these tops tighten. So if you can get the bottoms in on a few threads, make sure you catch your gaskets. And come back and tighten your top ones. So now we're going to get our middle piece lined up and tightened down, and then we'll proceed to tighten our front and rears. Okay, so here's our final product. Tightened. Give you a little more visual on it actually installed. See it'll be close, but it will clear. Got the V-band down here nice and tightened. And of course down back below we're good to go. And I'm going to crawl underneath to finish up the downpipe now. Okay, so now that we're done, I gotta go back to doing the LX9 swap stuff. So hopefully this helps somebody. Don't forget to put everything back that you took off. Fill your coolant, bleed the system, let it run, let it warm up. It might not hurt to drive it a couple days and kind of go back through it if you can get, without tearing too much apart, kind of snug each bolt again just to make sure, when you get those heat cycles on there, kind of get an idea of what the downpipe should look like. This exhaust was built just like a catback, so you could potentially run the headers with stock exhaust. But yeah, so get that bolted together right there at the cradle. So stuff you can get right at the hardware store. This is just a standard 3-bolt, 2.5 inch metal gasket, so you can reuse it. Any questions, like usual, let me know, and I'll try to help. Kind of try to build on what I'd already kind of put out there info-wise on headers. If you want more info on headers, I'll throw the links for the 2-part series that I did on those, where I showed like these and the other brands that we have, just to kind of show you, and then kind of showed them in the car, not so much, installing them. And you know the drill. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.